If you drink coffee every day and you're over 50, your body isn't responding the same way it did 10 or 20 years ago. Most people have no idea this is happening. They keep drinking coffee out of habit, never stopping to consider what's actually changed. That's what we're going to talk about right now, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand your body in a way most people never do. Coffee is one of the most consumed beverages in the world. For many of you watching, it's been part of your daily routine for decades. It's there in the morning to help you wake up, in the afternoon to push through the day, sometimes in social settings as a way to connect. But here's what nobody talks about. After 50, your body goes through gradual changes in metabolism, hormone regulation, sleep patterns, digestion, and critically, how it processes stimulants like caffeine. These changes are real, they're measurable, and they matter more than you think. This video is educational only and doesn't replace medical advice, but what I'm about to share could change how you feel every single day. Let me start with something that surprises most people. The caffeine you drink in the morning might still be in your system when you go to bed. Yes, you heard that right. As we age, the liver metabolizes caffeine more slowly. The enzymes responsible for breaking down caffeine become less efficient over time. What does this mean practically? The half-life of caffeine, the time it takes your body to eliminate half of what you consumed, becomes significantly longer. That cup of coffee at 8 a.m., it's still active in your bloodstream at 8 p.m. You might not feel jittery or wired, but caffeine is still stimulating your nervous system, working in the background, quietly disrupting the quality of your sleep. This is why so many people over 50 suddenly develop sleep problems. They lie awake at night, they wake up multiple times, they feel like their sleep isn't as deep anymore, and they blame it on aging, stress, or hormones. But often, the real culprit is that morning coffee, still circulating through their system 12 hours later. The connection isn't obvious because the stimulation is subtle. You don't feel it consciously, but your nervous system does. If you've noticed your sleep quality declining and you can't figure out why, the timing of your coffee consumption, not just the amount, could be the explanation you've been looking for. Some people find that moving their last cup from 2 p.m. to noon, or even to mid-morning, completely transforms their sleep. It's a small change with massive impact. Now let's talk about something even more interesting. Your nervous system itself is changing. Many people over 50 notice they feel different after coffee, more anxious, more restless, a racing mind that won't settle down. Some people describe it as being on edge, unable to sit still, a subtle but constant feeling of unease. Here's what's happening. Your nervous system becomes more reactive with age. The same amount of caffeine that once made you feel alert and energized is now pushing your system past a comfortable threshold. It's amplifying sensations that weren't there before. The stimulation that helped you focus in your 30s and 40s now feels uncomfortable, even overwhelming. Think about it this way. Your baseline stress response has changed. You're dealing with different life pressures now. Maybe health concerns, family responsibilities, financial planning, or just the accumulated stress of decades of living. When you add a stimulant like caffeine to a nervous system that's already more reactive, you can tip the balance in ways that feel distinctly unpleasant. This doesn't mean coffee suddenly became harmful to you. It means your tolerance levels have shifted, and what worked for years might not work anymore. Pay attention to how you feel not just in the first few minutes after coffee, but in the hours that follow. That's where the real story reveals itself. Blood pressure is another critical factor, and this one matters more than most people realize. Caffeine temporarily raises blood pressure. In younger adults, this effect is usually minimal and the cardiovascular system adapts quickly. But after 50, your blood vessels become less flexible. The elasticity of your arterial walls naturally decreases with time, which means your cardiovascular system doesn't handle stimulation as smoothly as it once did. Some people notice a pounding sensation after strong coffee. Others feel a flutter in their chest or become uncomfortably aware of their heartbeat. If you already monitor your blood pressure or have a family history of cardiovascular issues, these responses matter. Even a modest increase in blood pressure, repeated multiple times a day, every single day, adds up over time. This is educational information, not a diagnosis. But if you're noticing these sensations regularly, tracking when they occur and whether they align with your coffee intake could provide valuable insight. Your digestive system is changing too, and coffee affects it differently now. Coffee increases stomach acid production. After 50, your stomach lining may be more sensitive to this effect because the protective mechanisms that keep acid from causing irritation can weaken with age. People who never had digestive problems before suddenly develop heartburn, reflux, or stomach discomfort, especially when drinking coffee on an empty stomach. The acid irritates the esophageal lining, creating a burning sensation that's easy to mistake for something else entirely. Many people adjust unconsciously over time without understanding why. They switch to lighter roasts, reduce their intake, or make sure to drink coffee with food. These aren't random changes. They're responses to real shifts in tolerance. If you've found yourself making these adjustments naturally, your body has been signaling that something needed to change. Cold brew coffee tends to be lower in acidity than traditional hot brewed coffee, which is why some people find it gentler on their system. Here's something most people never consider: medication interactions. By the time you reach 50, there's a good chance you're taking at least one medication regularly. Blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, thyroid medication, blood thinners, osteoporosis medication. The list goes on. Caffeine can interfere with how these medications are absorbed or how strongly they affect your body. In some cases, coffee reduces absorption. In others, it intensifies side effects or creates unexpected stimulation. For example, caffeine can affect how blood pressure medications work, potentially reducing their effectiveness or causing fluctuations that make management more difficult. It can interfere with thyroid medication absorption if taken too close together. Some antibiotics and antidepressants interact with caffeine by slowing down how your body processes it or by intensifying the medication's effects. This doesn't mean you must eliminate coffee, but timing and awareness suddenly matter in ways they didn't before. Taking your medication at one time and coffee at another, or simply noticing how you feel when you combine them, can provide information that changes everything. Small interactions that wouldn't have mattered in your 30s or 40s can become significant now. Let's talk about energy, because this is where many people get trapped without realizing it. Coffee still provides a boost, no question, but after 50, some people experience a sharper crash later in the day. Your body's ability to regulate blood sugar and energy levels shifts with age, and caffeine can exaggerate these fluctuations. When caffeine wears off, the drop feels more pronounced. You end up more tired than you would have been without the coffee in the first place. This leads to fatigue, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and what do most people do? They drink more coffee. Now you're caught in a cycle. Each cup provides a temporary lift followed by another dip. Before long, you're not drinking coffee to feel energized. You're drinking it to avoid feeling drained. Recognizing this pattern is often the first step toward breaking it. Some people find that reducing their intake by even 1 cup per day, or spacing consumption differently, helps smooth out these energy swings. Others discover that switching to half-caff or focusing on hydration and balanced meals makes their energy feel more stable throughout the day. Beyond all the physical effects, there's something else happening that's worth examining closely. By the time you reach 50, coffee drinking is a deeply ingrained habit. It's consumed at the same times, in the same amounts, for the same reasons it always has been. There's comfort and routine. Coffee is tied to specific moments that feel important. Waking up, starting work, taking a break, connecting with friends. But here's the reality. The body forming those habits decades ago is not the same body you have now. That's not a failure. It's just biology. The question becomes, are you drinking coffee because it genuinely serves you well now, or because you've been doing it for so long that you've never stopped to reconsider? This isn't about quitting coffee, it's about awareness. Small changes in timing, quantity, or context can make a meaningful difference. Maybe you don't actually need that 3rd cup in the afternoon. Maybe drinking coffee with breakfast instead of before breakfast feels better. Maybe decaf in the evening gives you the ritual you enjoy without affecting your sleep. These aren't drastic overhauls. They're adjustments that respect both your habits and your body's current needs. And for many people, these small shifts create noticeable improvements in how they feel day to day. Hydration is another piece of this puzzle that often gets overlooked. Coffee is a diuretic, meaning it increases urine production and can contribute to dehydration if you're not drinking enough water throughout the day. After 50, your body's sense of thirst becomes less reliable. It's easier to become mildly dehydrated without noticing. Dehydration contributes to fatigue, headaches, difficulty concentrating, even mood changes. These symptoms get blamed on aging or stress when they're actually related to fluid balance. If you're drinking multiple cups of coffee daily, making sure you're also drinking plenty of water can mitigate some of the less desirable effects. A simple guideline: drink a glass of water for every cup of coffee. This helps maintain hydration and often reduces overall coffee consumption naturally, without feeling like a restriction. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone, and caffeine stimulates its production. After 50, cortisol regulation becomes less efficient. Chronic elevation of cortisol, even at modest levels, affects sleep, immune function, weight management, and more. If you're already dealing with stress in your life, adding caffeine amplifies your body's stress response in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Coffee isn't causing harm on its own, but the cumulative effect of caffeine plus life stress plus age-related changes adds up. Some people find that reducing caffeine helps them feel calmer and more balanced overall, even when they never initially connected their stress levels to their coffee consumption. The body keeps score even when we're not paying attention. This isn't about quitting coffee, it's about awareness. Small changes in timing, quantity, or context can make a meaningful difference. Maybe you don't actually need that 3rd cup in the afternoon. Maybe drinking coffee with breakfast instead of before breakfast feels better. Maybe decaf in the evening gives you the ritual you enjoy without affecting your sleep. These aren't drastic overhauls. They're adjustments that respect both your habits and your body's current needs. And for many people, these small shifts create noticeable improvements in how they feel day to day. Hydration is another piece of this puzzle that often gets overlooked. Coffee is a diuretic, meaning it increases urine production and can contribute to dehydration if you're not drinking enough water throughout the day. After 50, your body's sense of thirst becomes less reliable. It's easier to become mildly dehydrated without noticing. Dehydration contributes to fatigue, headaches, difficulty concentrating, even mood changes. These symptoms get blamed on aging or stress when they're actually related to fluid balance. If you're drinking multiple cups of coffee daily, making sure you're also drinking plenty of water can mitigate some of the less desirable effects. A simple guideline: drink a glass of water for every cup of coffee. This helps maintain hydration and often reduces overall coffee consumption naturally, without feeling like a restriction. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone, and caffeine stimulates its production. After 50, cortisol regulation becomes less efficient. Chronic elevation of cortisol, even at modest levels, affects sleep, immune function, weight management, and more. If you're already dealing with stress in your life, adding caffeine amplifies your body's stress response in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Coffee isn't causing harm on its own, but the cumulative effect of caffeine plus life stress plus age-related changes adds up. Some people find that reducing caffeine helps them feel calmer and more balanced overall, even when they never initially connected their stress levels to their coffee consumption. The body keeps score even when we're not paying attention. Bone health deserves attention here too, though it's rarely discussed in this context. Caffeine slightly reduces calcium absorption and increases calcium excretion through urine. Over time, especially if your calcium intake is already low, this contributes to decreased bone density. After 50, particularly for women after menopause, bone health becomes critical. Small factors that wouldn't have mattered before start to add up. You don't have to give up coffee, but ensuring adequate calcium intake through diet or supplements, and moderating coffee consumption, work together to support your bones. Drinking coffee with milk or a fortified milk alternative helps offset some of this effect. It's about the bigger picture, not any single factor in isolation. Let me summarize what we've covered because these points matter. After 50, caffeine stays in your system longer. Your sensitivity to stimulation increases. Blood pressure response changes. Digestion becomes more reactive. Medication interactions become relevant. Energy patterns shift. Hydration needs increase. Cortisol regulation is affected. Bone health considerations emerge, and long-standing habits often go unquestioned. None of this automatically makes coffee a problem for you, but it does make understanding your own response more important than ever. The goal isn't to eliminate something you enjoy. It's to make sure what you're redoing is still serving you well at this stage of life. Small, thoughtful adjustments often make a significant difference in how you feel. Coffee quality and preparation methods influence how your body responds, and this is something you can control. Not all coffee is created equal. Espresso-based drinks tend to have less caffeine per serving than a large cup of drip coffee, but they're often consumed quickly and on an empty stomach, which intensifies their effects. French press coffee retains more oils and fine particles that can irritate sensitive stomachs. Paper-filtered coffee removes many of these compounds, making it gentler. The roasting process matters too. Darker roasts actually contain slightly less caffeine than lighter roasts, contrary to what many people assume, because roasting breaks down some of the caffeine molecules. If coffee has suddenly started bothering you after years of drinking it without issue, experimenting with different preparation methods or roast levels might provide relief without requiring you to give it up entirely. The ritual and psychological aspects of coffee consumption are powerful and often underestimated. For many people, coffee isn't just about caffeine. It's about routine, comfort, the signal that the day is beginning or that it's time for a break. These psychological associations are real, and they can mask what's happening physically. You might feel like you need that morning coffee to function, when in reality, the habit and the ritual are providing as much of the boost as the caffeine itself. Understanding the difference between needing the caffeine and enjoying the ritual opens up possibilities. Some people switch to decaf for some or all of their daily cups and keep the ritual they love while reducing or eliminating the effects of caffeine that no longer serve them well. Others create new rituals around herbal tea or other beverages that provide comfort without the stimulation. There's no single right answer, only what works for your body and your life now. Sleep architecture, the structure and quality of your sleep cycles, can be significantly impacted by caffeine even if you don't consciously notice it. Deep sleep and REM sleep, the most restorative stages, can be reduced by caffeine still in your system at bedtime. You might fall asleep easily and sleep through the night, but the quality of that sleep is compromised. This leads to waking up feeling less refreshed, experiencing daytime fatigue, having difficulty with memory and concentration. These symptoms get attributed to aging when they may actually be related to sleep quality affected by caffeine. Sleep studies show that caffeine consumed even 6 hours before bedtime measurably reduces sleep quality. After 50, when caffeine metabolism slows down, that window may need to be even longer. If you're experiencing unexplained fatigue despite seemingly adequate sleep, examining your caffeine intake and timing could reveal important insights you've been missing. The relationship between coffee and appetite regulation shifts with age in ways that matter for nutrition. Caffeine suppresses appetite temporarily. Some people use coffee strategically to manage hunger between meals, but after 50, this suppression can lead to inadequate nutrient intake. particularly if coffee is functioning as a meal replacement or reducing appetite, to the point where you're not eating enough protein, healthy fats, or micronutrients. Adequate nutrition becomes increasingly important with age, because your body's ability to absorb and utilize nutrients declines. If coffee is interfering with regular balanced meals, or if you're using it to push through hunger instead of responding to your body's signals, it's worth reconsidering how and when you consume it. Some people find that coffee after a meal helps with satiety and prevents overeating, which can be beneficial. The key is awareness of how coffee affects your eating patterns and ensuring those patterns support your overall health. Coffee impacts mood and mental health through its effects on neurotransmitters in the brain, dopamine, serotonin, and adenosine, all of which play roles in mood regulation, motivation, and sense of well-being. In younger years, these effects are typically experienced as positive: increased alertness, better mood, enhanced focus. After 50, however, brain chemistry can be more sensitive to disruption. Caffeine can contribute to mood swings, increased anxiety, or feelings of agitation. If your mood seems more variable or you feel more anxious or irritable than you used to, and this doesn't connect to obvious life circumstances, caffeine could be a contributing factor. The challenge is that these effects are subtle and cumulative, making them difficult to identify without deliberately experimenting with reducing or eliminating caffeine for a period to see if things improve. Some people discover that their baseline mood and emotional stability improve noticeably when they reduce caffeine intake, even when they never would have guessed coffee was playing a role. There's growing interest in how coffee interacts with inflammation in the body. Coffee contains both pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory compounds, and the net effect varies depending on individual factors, genetics, overall diet, gut health, and existing inflammatory conditions. Some research suggests moderate coffee consumption can have anti-inflammatory benefits, while excessive consumption or consumption in certain health contexts may contribute to inflammation. After 50, many people deal with some degree of chronic inflammation, whether from arthritis, cardiovascular issues, metabolic changes, or other age-related conditions. If you're managing inflammation as part of your health picture, it's worth paying attention to whether your coffee consumption affects your symptoms. Some people with inflammatory conditions report that reducing coffee helps with joint pain, digestive inflammation, or other symptoms. Others notice no difference or even find moderate coffee consumption beneficial. This is an area where individual response matters greatly and where working with healthcare providers who understand your full health context is helpful. The social and cultural dimensions of coffee drinking create real challenges when you consider making changes. Coffee is often central to social interactions, workplace culture, and family routines. Suggesting you might need to cut back can feel like rejecting these connections or making things difficult socially. These concerns are valid. Making changes to long-standing habits can feel isolating, especially if people around you don't understand why or interpret it as judgment of their choices. Finding ways to maintain social connections while adjusting your coffee consumption, whether switching to decaf in social settings, being open about your reasons, or finding alternative ways to connect that don't center around coffee, makes transitions easier. Many people find that once they start talking about the changes they're noticing, others share similar experiences, which creates new conversations and connections around navigating this stage of life together. Some people tolerate coffee beautifully well into their later years and experience no negative effects whatsoever. Genetics play a significant role in how quickly you metabolize caffeine, how sensitive your nervous system is to stimulation, and how your body responds to the various compounds in coffee. Some people have genetic variants that make them fast metabolizers of caffeine, meaning their bodies clear it efficiently regardless of age. These individuals may never need to adjust their coffee consumption and can continue enjoying it without downsides. The point of this discussion is to suggest everyone must change their relationship with coffee after 50. It's to provide information for those who are noticing changes and wondering whether coffee might be related. Self-awareness and honest assessment of how you actually feel, not how you think you should feel or how you used to feel, are the most valuable tools you have. If you decide to reduce your caffeine intake, know that the process can come with temporary withdrawal symptoms. Headaches are most common, often appearing within 12 to 24 hours of reducing caffeine and lasting anywhere from a few days to a week. Fatigue, difficulty concentrating, irritability, and mild depression can also occur, though these symptoms typically resolve within a week or two as your body adjusts. The severity of withdrawal symptoms generally correlates with how much caffeine you are consuming and how abruptly you reduce it. Tapering gradually, reducing by half a cup every few days, or mixing regular coffee with decaf in increasing proportions, minimizes withdrawal effects and makes the transition more manageable. Some people find that switching to green tea, which contains less caffeine than coffee but enough to take the edge off withdrawal, provides a useful middle step. The temporary discomfort of withdrawal can be discouraging. It's one reason many people return to their previous consumption levels. But knowing it's temporary and will pass helps you persist if you've decided reducing caffeine is worthwhile for you. Everyone's body is different, and individual circumstances matter. What works well for one person may not work for another. There's no single right answer about how much coffee is appropriate or when it should be consumed. The value is in paying attention, noticing patterns, and being willing to make adjustments if something isn't feeling right. If this explanation has been useful to you, liking the video helps more people find content like this. And if you're interested in clear, practical discussions about everyday habits after 50, subscribing helps you stay connected to future videos. Thanks for watching.